From the beginning of time, chaos existed in infinite darkness, a void without form or purpose. From this chaos arose the Titans, beings of immense power and ferocity, headed by Cronus, the most powerful and fearsome of all. But Cronus's ambition knew no bounds, and fearing a prophecy that foretold his downfall at the hands of one of his children, he devoured each of them as soon as they were born. In despair and grief, Gaia, Cronus's consort and mother of his children, decided to save her youngest son, Zeus. When Zeus was born, Gaia offered Cronus a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, which he devoured without hesitation, thinking it was his son. Time passed, and Zeus grew up and became a strong and brave young man. His heart was angry at his father's actions, and he was determined to avenge his brothers. He returned to Mount Olympus and forced Cronus to vomit up the siblings he had devoured: Hades, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. Together, they joined forces to overthrow the Titans in a battle known as the Titanomachy. For a decade, the skies were filled with the din of war. Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, brothers united by a lust for power, plotted to overthrow the Titans and seize the reign of the cosmos. The Cyclops and the Hecatonchires lived in the gloomy Tartarus, marginalized by their appearance and power. The Cyclops, giants with one eye, were skilled in blacksmithing, while the Hecatonchires, with 100 hands and 50 heads, had great strength. Both suffered under Campi, the cruel guardian of Tartarus. With these new weapons, the gods felt invincible, full of power. United, they freed the Cyclops and the Hecatonchires from the clutches of Campi, who gratefully joined the fray. The battle was savage and cruel. Now armed with their new divine tools, the gods confronted the Titans with fury and desire for justice. Finally, after a titanic struggle, the gods achieved victory. The Titans were imprisoned in the depths of Tartarus, an abyss beneath the underworld. After the battle, the three brother gods divided the universe and their domains. Zeus became the lord of the sky, Poseidon took over the seas, and Hades became the ruler of the sinister underworld. Hades remained in his realm of shadows and silence, guarding the souls of the dead and the fallen Titans. Cerberus, a fierce and loyal three-headed monster, is his ally in the realm, and together they guard Tartarus, ensuring that no creature escapes its prison. On Earth, the people live daily, praying to their gods for mercy and protection, far from understanding Hadess' solitude in his dark realm. Over time, this isolation led him to yearn for companionship, someone to share his existence with. Then, his attention was fixed on Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, for whom his heart beat vigorously. Despite knowing that winning her over would not be easy, for she lived under the careful guardianship of her mother in the upper world, Hades was deeply in love. Demeter, who adored her daughter and protected her from divine gazes, could not prevent the lord of the underworld from setting his eyes on Persephone. Hades, ruler of the underworld, longed for the presence of Persephone. He wanted her to be his queen and to accompany him in his dark domain eternally. One day, while Persephone was picking flowers in the beautiful meadow of Enna, Hades suddenly appeared from a dark crevice in the ground and took her away. He said to her softly, "You will be my queen, Persephone. Together, we will rule the underworld forever." Hades felt triumphant, for his plan had worked perfectly, and so he would have the woman to whom he would offer his kingdom at his side. Consumed with worry, Demeter searched the earth for her daughter Persephone without knowing her whereabouts. Persephone's disappearance plunged the world into bottomless sorrow, ruining the crops and bringing on a winter so severe that it brought death and desolation. Persephone tried to adapt to the gloomy underworld. However, Hades' sadness gradually showed her a different side of the shadow realm. Ascalaphus, Hades' loyal gardener, watched from the shadows. One day, he saw Persephone eat grains from a pomegranate, an act that would bind her to the underworld forever. Faced with the chaos and sadness that Persephone's absence caused on Earth, Zeus finally decided to intervene. In his eagerness to restore peace, the king of the gods wanted to solve the conflict with the goddess of agriculture, but she refused to give in, demanding the return of her daughter in exchange for harmony on Earth. Faced with the refusal, the gods supreme devised a plan to bring back the young girl, charging Hermes, his son and messenger, to go to the underworld to persuade Hades to free Persephone. Hermes complied, traveling to the shadowy realm, and after an extensive talk, convinced the ruler of the dead to allow the maiden's return to her mother. When the time came for Persephone's departure, Ascalaphus was faced with a dilemma. Debating between silence and loyalty to Hades, he revealed the secret. Persephone had eaten pomegranate in the underworld, binding her forever to this realm. With a lowered gaze, she confessed the truth to Hades, thus sealing Persephone's fate. Fed up with the conflict, Zeus proposed a simple solution. Persephone would spend part of the year upstairs with her mother, Demeter, and the other part downstairs with Hades. This decision transformed the life of Persephone, who became the queen of the underworld but also remained a daughter of the earth. Although it initially cost her, Persephone began to see the beauty in her subway home and love Hades. Each time Persephone rises to the surface, she brings with her spring and summer, filling the hearts of her mother and all mortals with joy. However, her inevitable return to the underworld brings autumn and winter, times of sadness for Demeter. On one occasion, Persephone found Ascalaphus in the gardens of the underworld. It transformed him into an owl as punishment for his disloyalty. This action left a permanent mark on the underworld, reminding everyone of the importance of fidelity. Eventually, Persephone revealed her love for him to Hades, a sentiment he fully reciprocated. Their passion illuminated the underworld, demonstrating how happiness can arise even in the darkest places. Adonis, with his unique charm, enchanted gods and mortals alike. His beauty attracted Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and Persephone, mistress of the underworld, creating an intense feud between them. The situation escalated until Zeus intervened, establishing that Adonis would divide his time between the two goddesses and the rest of the year at his choice. Adonis chose to spend spring and summer with Aphrodite and autumn and winter with Persephone, enjoying both worlds and the love of the goddesses. Years they were passed until a tragic fate took Adonis away. Meanwhile, in another tale of the underworld, Hades is captivated by the nymph Mind, provoking the wrath of Persephone. Upon discovering the infidelity, Persephone confronted Hades. It transformed Mind into a mint plant, again demonstrating the intensity of divine emotions. Despite his fury, Hades attempted to diffuse the situation by transforming another nymph into a white willow, marking another episode of passion and conflict in the realm of the gods. Hades, the god of the underworld, adored Persephone, his queen, and always protected her and showed her beauty. However, Theseus, the Athenian hero, and Pirithous, the brave king, planned to kidnap Persephone so that Pirithous could take her as his wife. Believing they could confront Hades and escape with Persephone, they descended into the underworld armed and determined. Hades, with his cold gaze, was waiting for them. Upon receiving them, he noticed their nervousness and inquired further during a banquet in his palace. While Theseus and Pirithous were enjoying the feast, confused Persephone asked what was happening. The men, frightened, confessed their plan to kidnap her. Hades, furious, punished the heroes to spend eternity locked in a dungeon in the underworld, tied to their chairs, thus defending his wife's honor. Heracles ventured to the underworld to fulfill one of his jobs, where he managed to free Theseus thanks to his cunning and the compassion of Persephone. However, Pyrrhus could not be freed because of his evil actions and impure desire for his wife. He is said still to pay his sentence in the realm of the dead. Sometime later, Hades received Heracles for his last job, to capture Cerberus. This three-headed dog guarded the underworld's gates. Heracles descended into that gloomy place where life and light seemed to have disappeared entirely. The air was filled with the wails and whispers of lost souls, and the cold was so intense that even the hero shivered. Hades received him on his dark throne and said, "I heard that you came for my Cerberus." Heracles replied, "So it is, great Hades. I must take Cerberus back to King Eurystheus to complete my penance, and when I have finished, I will return him to the darkness." Hades agreed on one crucial condition. Heracles was to capture Cerberus without weapons or artifacts, only with his bare hands, and deliver him unharmed. The brave Heracles accepted the challenge and succeeded in subduing the fierce beast, bringing it back to the world of the living. After demonstrating his success, Heracles returned Cerberus to the Underworld, thanking the Lord of Darkness for his generosity. Eurydice, Orpheus's beloved, died after being bitten by a poisonous snake. Devastated by the loss, Orpheus traveled to the Underworld to recover his beloved. With his lyre, the boy played a melody so moving and sad that even the stone hearts of Hades and Persephone were moved. Hades allowed Orpheus to take Eurydice back to the world of the living on one condition. He should not look back until they had crossed the gates of the Underworld. If he did, he would lose Eurydice forever. Orpheus began the arduous journey back, guiding Eurydice with the sound of his lyre. But doubt started to grow in his heart. What if Hades had deceived him? What if Eurydice was not really after him? No longer able to contain his anxiety, Orpheus turned to see if his beloved was following him. And there she was, about to vanish back into the darkness. "No!" cried Orpheus, reaching out his hand to her. But it was too late. He had broken the pact, and the maiden vanished before his eyes, her last breath a whisper in the wind, "I love you." In the world of the living, Orpheus's music was filled with an even more profound sadness. He had lost Eurydice for the second time, and this loss would be forever. Sisyphus, known as the most cunning mortal, had always lived in the shadow of death. But his cunning enabled him to deceive the Lord of the Underworld twice to avoid his final fate. However, the most intelligent cannot forever prevent the gods' design. There came a day when the shadow of death again spread over Sisyphus. Caught at a crossroads, the man pleaded with his beloved wife Mephrope not to perform the usual funeral rituals after his death in a desperate attempt to cheat death once again. When Sisyphus arrived in the Underworld, he claimed to Hades and Persephone that he had been the victim of an improper burial. He boldly asked to be returned to the world of the living to correct this dishonorable act. The gods, moved by his pleas, allowed his return, trusting that he would return once his wishes were fulfilled. But Sisyphus, with a sly smile, broke his promise and did not return to the land of shadows, tasting once again the sweetness of life. He was dragged back to the Underworld by Hermes, the messenger of the gods, under the direct order of Zeus. Enraged by Sisyphus's audacity and deceit, Hades prepared an eternal and disheartening punishment for him. He condemned Sisyphus for pushing a massive boulder up a steep slope. But just when the top was within his reach, the rock always slipped from his grasp and rolled back down into the valley, condemning him to repeat his effort for all eternity.